to, wow, okay. And still trying to figure out. Uh, okay, so let me see. Okay, auspicious greetings, everyone. It's good to see everyone again. I know like earlier we tried to discuss a little bit, but the time is pretty short. So let us all give ourselves some time just to briefly ground ourselves as what we might be coming from some place or doing something else earlier. So let us give us a few minutes to meditate and focus on our breathing. So let's make sure that we're sitting upright, hands making meditation gesture, relax our physical body. Gently close our eyes if we feel comfortable with our eyes fully closed. If not, we can kind of like look gently downward in front of us. Let's go ahead and taking a few deep breaths as we try to settle our mind. Try to stay focused on each breath that we take. Now let us slowly taking 3 deep breaths, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in again, breathing out. Let's gently wrap our palms together. Let's cover our palms on our eyes, the top of our head, over our ears, to the back of our neck. Let's gently wrap our palms together. Gently massage our shoulders, arms, all the way to our fingers and wrists. Okay. So, last week, we talked about chapter 4, discussing about the reluctance of a few more bodhisattvas on top of the disciples, the great disciples, 500 of them, because of past encounters or challenges that they have come across with Vimalakirti. They even bodhisattvas had expressed reluctance to go and see Vimalakirti on behalf of the Buddha. So eventually, Manjushri Bodhisattvas being asked by the Buddha, and of course, Bodhisattvas was being humbled, and but still go ahead and accept this request from the Buddha. And when everyone heard that Manjushri Bodhisattvas, who is known of great wisdom, will be going to see Vimalakirti on behalf of the Buddha, everyone followed. The whole crowd followed. So on chapter 5, Vimalakirti and Manjushri Bodhisattvas were discussing about why Vimalakirti showed sickness, and is one of the great compassion of Vimalakirti, trying to reach out to more people in terms of sharing on the sufferings and even like sickness that the physical body has in every one of us. Is part of like the dependent origination of the physical body. So for today, I kind of like change the title a little bit to better suit what we're going to discuss. And of course, like in our Hot Sutra, we always recite it like the form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Is trying to reflect upon what we're going to discuss today on chapter 6, where it is mainly focusing on how there are many things are beyond comprehension, and or is referring to the inconceivable liberation in a way. And for chapter 7, it's more of like focusing on like a discussion about regarding all living beings, and focusing on the conversation between the goddess and Sariputra, one of the great disciples of Bodhisattva, of the Buddha. So it's very interesting to see the discussion, and it's just like asking one question and then have an answer, and then the question will follow up with another question and answer again, and question and answer. So we're going to try to flow through the 2 chapters today. And of course, like with different translation. As for now, some of the Buddhist terms have yet to be standardized. But like the basic words, terms that we usually use is inconceivable. Sometimes like non-duality or inconceivable is referring to something that is beyond what we can describe, beyond what we can think, beyond what we can imagine. So even like 2 weeks from today, we're going to talk more into non-duality, which is the next class, where we try to, it's very interesting to try to use words to describe something that is beyond words. Yeah, so, and I will try my best to share what is in the text based on what I understand from the discussion between Vimalakirti and Manjushri as well as the Buddha. Okay, so for today, we are going to look into like how Bodhisattvas, Bodhisattvas here is referring to both Manjushri and Vimalakirti. Discuss the nature of inconceivable liberation, a state of freedom that is beyond ordinary comprehension. So we can use a word nirvana in a way. And followed by another chapter on the goddess, which is referring to mainly sometimes we might be attached to the distinction of gender, but here we're going to look at gender equality, and sometimes it's not just it's not because of distinction physically, but it's more of like mental and the attitude or characters of different gender. Okay. So itself, the physical gender distinction are ultimately empty and illusory. Okay, so if you can recall the story when Manjushri Bodhisattvas, together with so many disciples, heavenly beings, many other people together that went to see Vimalakirti. And of course, Manjushri and Vimalakirti go straight into the idea discussion on sickness. And then here comes Sariputra, when he was like tagging along together with so many people, And then he started to observe and then thinking that, oh, in this room where Vimalakirti is in, it's not big. It's about, how big is it? Is in Chinese it's called 一丈, which is about, I would say that is this a regular small room, maybe 200 square feet or even smaller, between like within maybe 100. I'm not so sure the exact how big is it, but it's just a small room. And when they are in there, there's only one bed with McCurdy laying there, and the rest is the whole of the room is empty. So when Sariputra was listening to this discussion, the question and answers by Manjushri and Vimalakirti, he started to give rise to a thought, thinking about, how come there's no seats for everyone to sit in Vimalakirti's room? Okay, so all these bodhisattvas and the major disciples that came so far just to see Vimalakirti, and he didn't even offer us a place to sit. So when Sariputra gave rise to that thought, Vimalakirti knew about it, and then asked Sariputra, "Are you here?" Okay, the question asked, "Are you here for the seats or the Dhamma?" Okay, so this has become a very famous koan or trans story between Vimalakirti and Sariputra even today. Okay, that when we are here in one place, are we here for the seats or the Dhamma? So of course, Sariputra replied, "I came here for the Dhamma, or the law, depending on which translation you are looking at, not for a seat." Okay, so as Vimalakirti replied, "A seeker of the Dharma doesn't concern oneself even about life or limb, much less about a seat. A seeker of the Dharma seeks nothing in the way of form, perception, conception, or mental volition, and even consciousness." Okay, one seeks nothing in a way that is something physical or that is through the senses. He seeks nothing. One seeks nothing that is beyond the realm of the desire. The three realms usually refer to the realm desires, which is human realms is one of it, and including the six realms is within the desire realms, and the form realms and the formlessness. Okay, even beyond that, when a person or practitioner focusing on the Dharma, one goes beyond form. Okay, so Vimalakirti reminded Sariputra, a seeker of the Dharma does not seek a true attachment of the Dharma even to the Buddha. Okay, not attaching to the Dharma as well as the Buddha. It does not seek a true attachment to the Dharma and does not seek a true attachment to the order. Okay, so it goes on and saying that the Dharma is not a sight, it's not a sound, it's not a category, it's not even beyond an idea. So the Dharma itself is free from compounded things as well as uncompounded things. Okay, so if everyone remembered when we discussed about when we learned about the Platform Sutra, even the Dhamma Sutra, or even the Heart Sutra, everything it goes from it goes back to the Paramita of the 600 volume that mainly talking about emptiness, describing the form is not even like it is part of emptiness, and emptiness is form. Even the Dharma eventually, when we learn more about it, okay, it is a means for us to understand the reality of life. So when it comes to the discussion between Sariputra and Vimalakirti regarding a seat, when we go to when we attend a retreat, sometimes for those of you might have attended a retreat at Shilai Temple, whether it's short-term monastic retreat or the precepts retreat, or even the meditation retreat 7 days, and so on and so forth. Sometimes because of the limitation of the space, the rooms that we have, some of us might need to sleep in meditation hall, or even like on the floor in a dorm together with many other people. And including there are many things in our life that sometimes we might get distracted by so many things, so many happenings in our life. But whether it is our daily routine, doing the chores, the tasks, whatever that we do, we always have to remember our original intention. So what is our intention in living this life? What is our intention in attending a retreat? What is our intention in learning the Dharma? Okay, so if we can always tie ourselves with the original intention of every practice that we do, whether it is a noisy street, if it is a very packed room, or if it is there are many other chores or any tiny weeny things that we have to take care of every single day. If we look at it as this is part of our practice, and always remember as the tie for us, the main focus for us is to be mindful and learn true practices. Okay, when we know and remind ourselves our original intention, if we come across any disagreement, or especially when we organize an activity or we plan for something within a community committee, or even within the board or within an organization, sometimes we might have differences in our opinions, different ways of planning, but we try to communicate with others and always remember our original intention. And just like earlier when we mentioned about the Dharma itself, when we learn the Dharma, even by the end of the day, when we learn the Dharma, it is just like the raft as per what is described in the Diamond Sutra. The Dharma is ultimately without formulation and without verbalization, something that for us not only to learn from the book, but for us to contemplate and to reflection in our everyday life. Okay, so and eventually we realize that the Dharma is just like what the Buddha mentioned, is just like a raft for us to know our way. Is for us to take the raft to from this shore to the other shore. So the Dharma itself is without taints and free from defilements. Okay, it's just like what I shared before. It's just like skateboarding. The skateboard itself is for us a skillful means for us to go from one place to another. But when we reach the place that we want to go to, we put aside our skateboard. When we are on the other shore, we dock the ship, the boat. Okay, so the Dharma itself, it is not something that for us to can be seen or heard or perceived or understood. It is free from compounded things. It's free from conditioned. Okay, if it is conditioned, then it will change. Okay, imagine the Dharma that the Buddha shared with us 2,600 years ago. Then today, the parables might change, the examples might change, the way, the different audience, the different contents, we might change a little bit, but the main concept of what the Buddha shared with us in terms of practices of the Dharma is similar. It's the same. It didn't change. Okay, like for example, the core teachings, the core realization of dependent origination, impermanence, it is still true, valid, not only on planet Earth, but it applies across the universe, across the universe beyond universe. Okay, so Dharma itself it is not something that we can grasp. It's not something for us to see, to hear, to perceive. But when we understand skillfully, is for us to reflect and practice and experience it in our everyday life. Okay, so yeah, just like in the Diamond Sutra, the teaching should be understood to be like a raft. If even the Dharma must be let go of, what about what is not the Dharma? Okay, so this is a good reminder for us when it comes to learning the Dharma. Okay, so it is not for us to learn about, for example, karma. When we see things happen, something not so good happen to good people, we might think that, oh, this is bad karma. This is the karma that we have cultivated in the past. So it is not for us to just simply use the teaching, the Dharma, as an excuse to try to explain what happened. Okay? But then sometimes the causes and conditions are beyond what we can imagine. It's way more complex than what we can see, what we can hear, and what we can perceive. Because even we see with our eyes, even when we hear with our own ears, it doesn't really reflect the truth. It is because we filtered what we see, we filtered what we hear. And it is based on how we perceive it, based on how we experience it, and based on our previous understanding, previous experiences that help us understand what it is. But each of us, every one of us has different experience. Every one of us have different reflection or perception towards the same thing. Okay, so we have to understand that even the Dharma or even not the Dharma, it is not something for us to hold on to. Okay, and then here comes when Sariputra mentioned about a seat to sit, and then here comes Vimalakirti asking Manjushri Bodhisattva. So okay, now if you're the disciples of the Buddha wants to have a seat, okay, and then Vimalakirti asks Manjushri. So in what world the Buddha feel, or Buddha land, that did you see that the best lion thrones, which is referring to the seats that is of the finest quality. And of course, Manjushri mentioned that noble sir, the finest and most superb seats exist in the universe of Meru Drava. So it's some place is in the east where there's this Buddha Tathagata that has the best seat for everyone. So when Vimalakirti heard about this, and then he said, okay, now let me get and borrow 320,000 seats or thrones for every one of you. So imagine in such a small space in the Vimalakirti's room, he had borrowed 320,000 seats for everyone. And it is not just the regular seats that we sit. It is way bigger and huge that bodhisattvas who attain a certain level of super knowledges, they can easily jump and then sit on the seats, okay, which is the height according to the text is 4,200,000 leagues, okay. I'm not sure how big is it, but it is very big. And then even for the beginner bodhisattvas, they tried, like even the disciples of the Buddha, they tried, the arahats tried to have a seat on it. Okay, for the Buddhist beginners, bodhisattvas, it's easier for them to transform themselves because Vimalakirti taught them about the five knowledges, the five super knowledges, and then eventually bodhisattvas can easily understood, and then they just have a seat just like that. But then the great disciples are unable to sit, take the seat because it's way too high. Imagine if we were there, I'm not sure how we are going to take a seat. But Vimalakirti advises us, Sariputra, you can just bow to the Tathagata of Meru Paraja, okay, where you'll be able to take a seat. Okay, so when Sariputra bowed to the Tathagata, to the Buddha, after that, he easily go up to the seat and have a seat. So this is also a reminder when we learn about this, is not trying to conceive what is inconceivable, But for myself, the key takeaway from this story is for us, no matter how much that we have practiced, okay, it is for us to always be humble in a way. It's just like what Vimalakirti have asked Sariputra and all the great disciples to bow, pay respect to the Tathagata. And when they did that, they lowered themselves, lower the ego, and eventually they can be able to take the seat without the this distinction of knowing that this is super big or super small. Okay, when it comes to the seat or even like other things. Okay, so here there have stated the 8 inconceivables based on what had discussed. Okay, the first one is the inconceivable penetration of form. Okay, so for bodhisattvas, where practice the paramita, even the paramitas, the 6 paramitas, bodhisattvas can perceive the entire universe. Okay, imagine the entire universe as contained within a single particle of dust without diminishing the size of the universe or the dust particle. Okay, I know that this is beyond how we can understand, but look at it as something that is inconceivable. Okay, inconceivable in terms of the form. Okay, the whole universe can be included within a single particle of dust. Okay, imagine that. Okay, so inconceivable penetration of sentient beings. Okay, bodhisattvas can take the infinite number of sentient beings in the universe and place them within their body without harming them or reducing the experience of space. So because bodhisattvas has gone beyond the conceptual idea of big and small, a lot or a little. Okay, so the inconceivable penetration of sentient beings is one of the things that bodhisattvas can easily transform or manifest. Okay, and then in terms of the time, okay, bodhisattvas can experience countless eons or kalpas within a single moment or even within a snap of fingers, and reflecting their ability to transcend ordinary time. Okay, so but then again, sometimes it's hard for us to imagine. It's just like when Buddha was describing the time in Tushita heaven. The one morning in Tushita heaven is like 50 years in human lives. So if a person were to go to Tushita heaven for just a moment, or even like a morning, when a person returned to human world, 50 years has gone by. Okay, so but then for bodhisattvas has transcended the ordinary concept of time. Okay, when it comes to time, it's very interesting. Like we all know that one rotation of the Earth is 365 days and 4 hours. And recently there was a study that was discovered mentioning that the rotation, the turning of the Earth has slowed down. Okay, so there was a discussion whether that, will our days be changed more to maybe 366 days or 370 days? Will that change? That is slowed down. For us, I think we won't be able to know that the Earth has slowed down. We won't even know that the time it is 2 days, like 1 day is 2 days, or even 2 days is within just 1 day. So for us, this tiny thing, we won't experience it, we won't notice it. Okay? And for bodhisattvas, not only the bodhisattvas knew about it, knows about it, but bodhisattvas has the ability to transcend the ordinary idea or concept of time. And the fourth one is inconceivable inclusion of all realms, meaning that bodhisattvas can easily include all the existence from heavenly to earth, or even in a hell, the 6 realms into a single realm without disrupting the nature order of those realms. So we might think that, oh wow, it's just like magic. But then if a bodhisattva has managed to go beyond the attachment of conceptual ideas of time and space, it is inconceivable. Okay. So, and then again, inconceivable use of vastness and smallness. Okay. So, bodhisattvas can make large things small and small things large, demonstrating the non-duality nature of size and space in the ultimate reality. Okay. And then inconceivable display of infinite objects, things can make countless objects appear in a single object and manifest an entire world within a tiny object like a grain of rice. Okay. And then inconceivable transformation of bodies. We heard that bodhisattvas can manifest into different forms, just like Avalokitesvara bodhisattvas or Guanyin bodhisattvas can transform into different appearance as the bodhisattvas interact with the sentient beings in different world, even like without really diminishing their true form. Okay, so it goes beyond the attachments of the body or the appearance. And lastly is inconceivable of equanimity. Okay, so the bodhisattvas remain unaffected by the distinctions between all sentient beings and treat them equally compassion, regardless of the individual differences, or even like regardless of where they are, they share the same space, quote unquote space, within the bodhisattva's mind. So with this inconceivable, there are things, there are times that it's hard for us to imagine. But then we try to reflect what we are doing today. There are some part of what we can do today is also some sort of inconceivable, but it is happening. Like for example, thumb drive. Okay, so many years ago, we might have a few rooms to have the mainframe or supercomputers where we need to store all the storages, the memories, the data into that mainframe or in a supercomputer. And today we might even have a small portable drive that can include terabytes or even more information or data within that small space. So even when the invention or whoever that invented USB or portable drive, sometimes it's beyond how we can imagine. Like even when the idea of saving information onto the cloud, okay, we will say, oh, I want to save information into the cloud. Okay, like a few years ago, not everyone knows what it is meant. But as it becomes more and more popular, when people talk about, oh, I store my information in the cloud, and then there was even a joke saying that, oh, where's the cloud? Which cloud that you store your data in? And then one person replied, oh yeah, the cloud is somewhere in Texas, where the storage of all the memories of the cloud drives are in. Okay, so then even like if we were to take a flight, like for example from Asia, when we for example Taiwan or India or Southeast Asia, so when we take the flight coming back to the United States, because of time difference, we actually we might depart in the evening in Taiwan. When we arrive, we are actually a few hours ahead of our departure in Taiwan. Okay, and of course, at first, if we try to go beyond the idea of like different places, but we just look at the time itself, sometimes it is also inconceivable. But then for what the Bodhisattvas experience it's not what we experience, but I'm just trying to put in examples so that we can kind of like try to conceive what is inconceivable. It's not the ultimate way, but just trying my best to try to picture what is cannot be pictured. Okay. So another examples I would like to share with you all is I remember 2 years ago when we still like the our temple second floor, we want to change and remove all the carpet floorings. You can see from the photo here, the carpet flooring to a vinyl flooring, which is easier to and more sanitized for everyone to don't have to remove your shoes. You can wear shoes straight to the main shrine. So of course, like we have a long history here, 35 years. So things have been piling up over decades. Okay, so when we look at the things, this is just a small room, and this room is actually slightly bigger than what Vimalakirti room is in. But I just want to share with you that when we want to change the floor, we have to remove every single thing that is on the surface. Okay, so this is just one of the many rooms that were filled with stuff, things, books, sutras, instruments, everything. Okay, for those of you who go to a temple, you might be able to see something similar in the storage. It could be tidier, but just want to share with you this examples when we thought about that. Oh, we are going to remove everything from the floor. Okay, so many of us might be discouraged saying that, oh, how is it possible? This is not possible. Are we going to remove the books, the shelf, the big round tables, the shelvings, all the boxes there, even like the cabinets with the glasses on it, and so on and so forth. And we tried, and then I kind of like just reduce my scope. Okay, I said that, okay, this is possible. Nothing is impossible. Realizing and becoming a Buddha is possible. What else is impossible? So we started from one by one. We start by removing all the books that is on the white shelving, that which is along the wall. Removing the books, removing the top level of the books, the shelving, and then pushing away the steel rack, of course, removing the things first, and then the round table. Shilai Temple happens to need one. We have someone volunteers come and to pick them up and move the round table to Shilai Temple. And then the three glass cabinets, which is to the left, remove them, and then someone's happened to need it one by one. Eventually, within a week, we managed to remove everything. Of course, like the round table is there, but eventually we managed to remove that. And there's even a piano there that was also removed, and everything was removed. Okay, so when it comes to inconceivable, sometimes we might frame ourselves by the idea of conceivable. When we are in the state of conceivable mindset, sometimes we are restraining ourselves from the possible things that we can do. So knowing that bodhisattvas be able to go beyond and do things that are inconceivable, it is a good reminder for ourselves that sometimes if we got stuck with our own framework of doing certain things in a certain way, it is a good reminder for us to take a step back and try to think beyond the box, okay, beyond what we used to. And then when we panic, don't panic. When we think that it is impossible, think of the possibility. Think of the Buddha nature that the Buddha mentioned. Everything is possible. Okay, even realizing the Buddhahood is possible, what else is impossible? Okay, so this is the chapter that talking about having a big seat, with the discussion about having a seat or the Dharma. The Dharma is more important than having a seat. When you have a seat that is so huge, how are you going to sit on it? And we discuss about the inconceivable experiences, what the Bodhisattvas can do, go beyond, okay, the conceptual ideas of things. And then the next chapter is continue with the conversation about beyond comprehension, how we can understand, like how we going bodhisattvas can tolerate or can understand, can communicate in a skillful ways in reaching out in learning through conversation, learning through debates. So here only bodhisattvas can tolerate the harassment of another bodhisattvas is mainly talking about between Vimalakirti and Manjushri bodhisattvas, because in a way that they are debating using the Dhamma, and in a way that through that debate is trying to help us think beyond what we usually think, okay, what we are so used to it. So, and then of course, that's also, let me see. I don't think, okay, I'm going to skip this part because of the time. Okay, so the question that in chapter 7 is trying to Manjushri ask Vimalakirti is, how should a bodhisattva regard all living beings? Okay, how should a bodhisattva view all living beings, knowing that bodhisattvas can perform the indescribable, can perform what is inconceivable. Okay, so Manjushri would like to hear and listen to Vimalakirti about how should bodhisattvas regard all living beings. So as a wise view the reflection, the Buddha, Vimalakirti given examples. So a bodhisattva should look at all living beings just like the reflection of the moon in the water. Okay, so for us, reflection is just reflection. It doesn't really exist. Okay, but then do you say that the reflection doesn't exist, but it still exists? Okay, so if we truly believe that sentient beings exist somewhere out there, then bodhisattvas should and practice generating compassion towards all beings. Okay, so if we know that sentient beings are just like the reflections of the moon, okay, but then we won't be saying that the reflection is just a reflection. It also there. We can see it, we can feel it, we can penetrate or even have perception over the sight of the reflection. Okay, so, and then how should a bodhisattva view regarding all living beings? So another examples that Vimalakirti said that we should view a bodhisattva should regard all living beings, all sentient beings, like a face, a form that is seen in a mirror. Again, when we stand in front of the mirror, what do we see? We see reflection of ourselves. We see reflection, what is standing in front of the mirror. So do we say that the reflection is not real? Do we say that the me is not real because it is just a reflection? Okay, so there was a conversation and also different parables that Vimalakirti gave. And he even mentioned it's just like the shimmers of heat in a very hot season. And just like the echo that follows by a cry. It's just like the clouds in the sky. It's just like the foam on the water. It's just like the bubbles on the water. And it's just like a thing no firmer than a trunk of the plant. It's just like whether it is a banana plant, whether it is a cabbage, where we remove layers and layers and layers and layers, what can we find? We find nothing. But we won't say that the cabbage doesn't exist. There's still cabbage. Okay. So, and it's just like a Bodhisattva should regard all living beings no longer lasting than a flash of lightnings. Okay. And then knowing that Manjushri was puzzled, and then of course he himself is not puzzled, but as someone that represents everyone to ask this question. So if we heard what Vimalakirti has mentioned about, all the sentient beings is just like a mirror, a reflections, it's just like the form, just like the bubbles on the water. So how are we going to give rise to compassion, knowing that all living beings is just like a reflection, all living beings is just like bubbles, all living beings is like a form, it's just like the shimmers in the boiling water. Okay, so if we look at it as if all living beings are quote unquote illusory, then how are we going to give rise to compassion to help all sentient beings? Okay, and Vimalakirti said that when we know and we truly have insight, knowing that even all living beings exist when there's the right causes and conditions. Okay, it is depending on the right causes and conditions that enables an existence, enables a living beings to exist. Okay, when we are having this mind, bodhicitta, or even the compassion to help the sentient beings, we will not attach to the living beings that we are helping. A bodhisattvas will not hold on to the act of helping living beings. Okay, and then there's also another question that how should a bodhisattva view a practitioner who is making progress? Okay, so look at the practitioner in the same way that we look at the trail left by the bird flying in the sky. So even the practitioner, like whether as a monk or nun or even any lay practitioner, when we see them progressing in their practice, how should we view it? Vimalakirti said that it's just like the trail left behind by a bird flying by in the sky. It won't last forever, it's just temporarily. And just as I have realized the Dharma, okay, the more that we understand how everything comes about depending or interconnected with each other, we won't be attaching to the act of whether it's progress or helping or it's improvement. We will be able to understand truly and realize what is the Dharma that the Buddha has mentioned. Okay, so it goes on and on. And there's also continue to raise question between Manjushri and Vimalakirti. I kind of like have a quick recap. I know that the time is running out, but I'll just read it through. It's very interesting to see the conversation that between the Q&A between Manjushri and Vimalakirti. So if the bodhisattvas, you can look from left box and down to the center, go up and then to the right box and then down. Okay. If the bodhisattva fears the cycle of birth and death, okay, what should one rely on? Okay. And Vimalakirti replied, the bodhisattva, fearing the cycle of birth and death, or even someone, okay, should rely on the power of the Buddha's blessing. Okay. If one hopes to rely on the power of the Buddha's blessing, what course should one pursue? So how are we going to rely on Buddha's Tathagata's blessing, on Buddha's blessing? Okay, one should devote oneself in saving and helping all living beings. Okay, so okay, the sequence is a little bit off here, but anyway, if one hopes to save all living beings, what must one free them for? Okay, what we should free the sentient beings, the living beings for? Should free them from earthly desire. And if we hope to free them from earthly desire, how should he proceed? Okay, one should proceed with right mindfulness, and knowing that having this right mindfulness, knowing that the body is the root of human existence, and how even the human existence itself is emptiness. Okay, just like form is emptiness and emptiness is form. Okay, and then when there's no birth and no extinction, what else is there? Okay, it's beyond the dualistic idea of birth and death. Even if there's no good, the not good has no birth, meaning that the unwholesome is illusory, and the good has no extinction, is referring to the wholesomeness itself is rooted in a true nature. Okay, so only then it mentioned about what is the root of good and not good. What is the root of wholesomeness and not wholesomeness? The body is a root. Okay, and when the body is a root, what is the root of the body? Okay, it is coming from the desire, the greed, or the root, the sources. Okay, so what is the root of false and empty distinction? Okay. It comes from the thinking, how we think this and that, the false distinction from what we see, what we hear, and how we perceive. And with that, what is the root of false distinction? Okay, false distinction is those that distinction between the self and others, good and bad, existence and non-existence, that give rise to that distorted thinking that we have. Okay, so and then when this assumption that is rooted because of how we have this distorted thinking, it gives rise to groundless assumption. Okay, so the groundless here is referring to something that we just perceive out of emptiness, perceive out of nothingness, perceive out of the conceptual proliferation. Okay, so when we talk about groundless assumption, it's referring to that. Okay, so and assumption is based on one's ideas or belief that is not based on the true nature of all things. Okay, but rather on the projection of what we think, what we perceive. Okay, so what is the root of groundless assumption? It is mainly without foundation. It could be just something baseless. Okay, it could be just something that people just say it. Okay, it arises, most of the time arises from ignorance and lack of true grounding. Okay, there's no real basis in the ultimate reality. Okay, the root itself is non-existent, so that's why there's no root. Okay, all the false concept, the false distinction, and even the dualistic view that were constructed is all illusory. They are all baseless. They are all without groundless assumptions. Okay, so and Vimalakirti mentioned Manjushri. It is the root. It is on the root of this groundlessness that all other concepts are built out. It's just concept. When it comes to concept, it is still based on something that is relative, that is depending on compounded existence. So Bodhisattvas Vimalakirti suggests that recognizing this emptiness and rootlessness of the concept is the key for us to understand how everything arises because of the right causes and conditions. The nature itself is not permanent. So in the text here, that refers to as illusory nature itself. Okay, if we look at it as something solid, if we assume it as something distinction, okay, then we will be attaching to the groundless assumption. Okay, and then when you know that everything that is beyond what we conceive and what we have distinction boundaries, or even the framework of depending on this and that. Okay, if we can go beyond that, only then how do we have great love for all beings? It is by understanding all this, only then the true compassion and love for all beings can arise. Okay, when one deeply understands emptiness and non-duality. Okay, from this standpoint of the ultimate reality, the distinction between the self and others, there won't be the boundary. Okay, the I and the you and everyone, the Buddha, the mind, and everyone are the same. Okay, so only then we will give rise to boundless love and compassion. Okay, so and I know we are kind of like running out of time to look at the gender equality, but I would like to quickly mention on this when one of the goddess that is in the room of Vimalakirti, the goddess was very happy to listen to all the conversation, the Q&A between Manjushri Bodhisattvas and Vimalakirti. So the goddess was so happy and started to pour or offered petals, flowers throughout the whole room. Okay. And of course, Bodhisattvas were happy to see, oh, wow, flowers. And then the flowers just fall to the ground. But then for the arahats, the disciples, and then they were kind of like, oh, flowers, is not what a practitioner will attach the flowers with. Okay. But then because of that thought, the flowers petals started to attach onto the body of the disciples, arahats. Okay. And then, of course, long story short, the goddess started to ask a question about they're having questions between Sariputra and the goddess. That Sariputra eventually asked the goddess, like, you have a certain level of achievement in your practice. Why are you still in the female form? And then the goddess replied, before replying, she just turned Sariputra into a goddess form. And then she asked the same question. You, elder Sariputra, you have realized arahaships, you have achieved a certain level of enlightenment. Why are you still in the female form? Can you change into a male form? And of course, Sariputra was like, oh, no, no, no. And then, that was the story. But then again, it's a reminder that the gender is also empty of inherent nature, meaning that a person appears as a female form or a male form is because of the causes and conditions that a person's physical appearance is like that. But when it comes to practices, when it comes to realization, it's beyond the concept of gender. Okay? It's beyond the distinction of gender. Gender is just based on conventional ideas of what it is. It's not ultimate truth. So with that, it helps us reflect upon the gender equality within the Buddha's teachings, and also a reminder of the idea of emptiness. So to conclude, when we read and understand from the sickness of Vimalakirti, how the body itself is temporarily existed, and then into the conversation between Manjushri and Vimalakirti, how should Bodhisattvas liberate and help out all living beings? Even living beings itself is just a reflection of the moon, reflections of the mirror. It's the bubbles of the form from the water and so on and so forth. It's for us to truly understand that in this phenomenal world that we are in, and when we practice the Bodhisattva's practice, okay, the form is still emptiness and emptiness is form. Okay, so that we can go beyond the conceptual thinking and attachment to the duality. Okay, so even the last part, when we talk about gender itself, gender is just a physical appearance of a dependently originated phenomena. Okay, but when it comes to practices, it's more of like how we practice our experiences, our insight, our understanding of the Buddha's teachings, and who we are in terms of our attitudes, our behavior, or characters. That makes us distinct from one another. Okay, so but then by the end of the day, reminds ourselves that all beings have the Buddha nature. Every one of us has the potential to realize full enlightenment. Okay, so Sorry to take such a long explanation to what we are going to cover today. And then next week, we don't have class. And then we are going to continue on chapter 8 and 9 on November 6th. Okay. So where we are going to look at chapter 8 on understanding the Buddha way and entering the gate of non-dualism. Okay. That is something that we are going to look at it not next week, but on November 6th. So I know that sometimes I might not be able to answer your questions based on the terminologies, but if we talk about a certain context with the idea of what paragraph we're in, even like earlier mentioned about groundless assumption, okay, it's mainly because referring to the assumption, the concepts that one has, okay, because when you mention about the idea of groundless, or that is also one stage of Bodhisattva's practice. There are 54 stages in the practices. Okay. Yeah, so we have gone beyond the time. Anyone has any last comments, or if you would like to raise any questions, you can do that in the classroom, Google Classroom, or via email, or we can bring this up in the next class on November 6th. Okay, so let me share back with the slides as we do the dedication of merits as our journal poems. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows. So thank you again, and I hope everyone have a great week and enjoy the rest of the week. Okay, Amitabha.